Welcome everyone to the next edition of the Care CEO Success Stories podcast. My name is Adam James of Spring Up PR, and today we have Zoe Fry. She is, first of all, congratulations to Zoe. She has been awarded an OBE, yes, an OBE for her services rendered to social care and nursing. So big congratulations to Zoe. Just a little bit more about her. Now, she was originally, let's say, a care assistant. She went on to eventually own, run and sell a care home in West Sussex. And she is now one of the directors of the Astounding Society, which I'm sure most of you will know about, but was formed in 2014 and is ultimately, which coincided, of course, with when the CQC brought in their ratings. And the aim of the Outstanding Society is to promote expertise and knowledge and know-how to the adult social care sector. And what Zoe is going to be talking about today is how to create, as a single care nursing home operator, a fabulous working culture that's so good that you end up having a waiting list of nurses, and that's exactly how it was for Zoe and her team. So this is going to be a fabulous episode. Before we get going, as I said, my name's Adam James of Spring Up PR, and we help aspirational care providers get the fame and recognition they deserve via PR and marketing to help them generate more inquiries and increase occupancy faster. And if you head over to springup-pr.com, you'll see a whole number of videos and blogs and webinars on PR marketing to get more inquiries. So without any further ado, as they say, welcome Zoe, congratulations. And why don't you start off by telling everyone a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Fantastic. Thanks, Adam, for that very kind intro and for inviting me onto your podcast. So, yeah, I'm Zoe Fry, one of the directors of the Outstanding Society Community Interest Company. As you say, we share and celebrate best practice and help others to improve. And it's available and open to anybody who wants to become a member, and it's all free of charge. So my journey, so I'm a nurse as well, which I absolutely love, and to be a nurse working within social care is absolutely amazing. I started working as a care assistant, as you said, at the age of 13. Decided I wanted to be a matron of a nursing home, and so I went on to do my nurses training and worked my way up the ladder, actually within the NHS at first, but then my grandparents ended up in nursing homes, and the care sadly wasn't that good. And my parents challenged me and said, could you do any better if we invested? And I like a challenge, so I wrote a business plan and I purchased Valerie Manor nursing home in West Sussex, and it was a dream come true for me.
Wow. And when exactly was that?
So I completed on the purchase in 2008.
Okay, great. And a big thing. So tell me a little more, if you can, about how you purchased. Did you have to borrow money? How did you go about making that purchase? It's a big decision.
Yeah, it was a huge decision. And I think it was the right time financially because these days it's very difficult, obviously, to get loans. So as I say, my parents invested and the bank accepted the business case and agreed to lend me a certain amount of money to enable us to complete on the purchase. But it didn't stop there, because when I originally purchased it, it was a 15-bedded residential home. And a couple of years later, we got planning permission and had to go for further lending to extend to actually build a purpose-built nursing wing, which was amazing.
I see. Okay, great. So you purchased a home, you got going, and what was your vision and what had you set out to do right from the very beginning?
Just wanted to provide care for people who deserve to be looked after with really high standards. You know, it was always our ethos. If we were happy that a relative was being looked after at Valerie Manor, then actually we knew that we were doing the right thing, and that culture was across the whole of the organisation.
And how did you set about creating this culture where obviously it was you were able not only to retain and recruit, but have this waiting list ultimately with nurses? How did you set that about? What did you bring in that you felt was able to achieve this?
So I would never ask any of my team to do anything that I wasn't happy to do myself.
Mm.
When I first purchased the home, it was in the days where, you know, the care team would cook in the kitchen, they would clean, and they would
Mm.
provide care. And so, you know, there are pictures of me with my chef's hat on, and, you know,
Mm.
I was cooking and part of the team. I spent a lot of my time with the residents, with the families, with the team members. And I
Mm.
think I empowered them to come up with suggestions and, you know, improvements all the time, because it's, you know, if the team are happy, then you've got happy residents.
I see. So you're very much a kind of hands-on manager owner. And what do you think brings to the table if you are a manager owner versus owner who has a manager, or owners or owner who has managers? What do you think brings to the table as an owner? And perhaps I'm curious to know here, obviously you're kind of heavily invested by being a manager and owner, but I wonder what you've learned on that, and whether you had to maybe fight back on certain things, or that you might not do if you were an owner hiring a manager, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are pros and cons of both. I'm obviously a nurse as well, so
Mm.
for me to be the manager and take ultimate responsibility was really important. It just
Mm.
happened that I was the owner as well. So I think that to me was really important, and I think to the residents and relatives, knowing that I was the registered manager, I think meant a lot to them. But we're a very small organisation, and, you know,
Mm.
it's not really achievable in your larger organisations, because, you know,
Yes.
you might be across different sites. So for a small independent, that model worked incredibly well for us.
And how did you go about? Obviously, you know, the situation is slightly different now. I think you would probably agree in terms of recruitment, but and the availability of skilled and experienced care workers and nurses to a degree. What do you feel was important for you to create this culture that gelled and made people happy and want to come to work for you?
I think we really looked after the team, and the
Mm.
team looked after each other. You know, whatever they needed, they got. And actually,
Mm.
things don't have to cost a lot of money. You know, a few years ago, a handwritten card received in the post, you know, meant so much to my
Mm.
team members. If you're going through a difficult time, which in social care you do have difficult
Mm.
situations, we used to pay to have a counsellor come in to
Mm.
do reflection sessions with
Mm.
either one-to-ones or group sessions.
Mm.
If people were going through any kind of hardship or
Mm.
any kind of loss themselves personally, we would provide support on a one-to-one basis, or we'd signpost them to, for example, the Care Workers charity, and help them with an application to get a grant from them. So I think that was really important, that personal touch, and always having an open door policy.
And but just moving on to particularly to nurses, you know, it's a bit of a battleground out there, let's say, to recruit and retain nurses. Tell us about what you learned and how you did it, and any tips and advice you would give.
Again, I think it's the whole team, looking after the whole team, but
Mm.
from a in particular from a nursing point of view, it's about providing the support for them and the tools to do their job, and do their job very well. You know, a prime example is medication management. Our incidents were very, very low, but we invested a lot into medication management. And within obviously a nursing home setting, you can see so many different areas of care, areas of specialism. So if there was something that came up that the nurses weren't used to, then we'd make sure that they had the training. We'd get somebody in to supervise them. You know, if you had machinery that you needed to use, for example, if one
Mm.
of the nurses wasn't confident in using that piece of machinery, you
Mm.
would have another nurse offered to come in and show them. So actually the nurses really looked after each other as well, and really supported each other.
I mean, it sounds, when you talk about it like that, as maybe easy is not the right word, but it sounds very much doable. But, it still requires, attention to how you work and support and manage your team. Some people may be inherently better at doing that than others. Everyone has their own leadership styles, their own ways of supporting and managing and encouraging and empowering their teams. And there are a whole different number of different ways, and also I think probably the trends, what's in vogue, if you like, for the best way to support and manage and grow teams changes, every 10 years or so, it feels. What do you feel are the attributes that perhaps as an individual owner manager you need to have? And what do you feel that you need to try and steer away from when it comes to, managing and supporting a team at a nursing home?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I think some of the things that I want to say is recognizing people's weaknesses as well as their strengths. So if somebody isn't very good, for example, at wound care, can you adapt the workload to have it on a different shift? Recognizing people's strengths. So if you've got a nurse that her passion or his passion is wound care, then actually get them to teach other people. So it's recognizing what people are good at. I would say succession planning, but it's not just succession planning. It's also if somebody thrives on a certain area of nursing, you could create a different role for them. So our roles never stood still. We were constantly looking at innovation and what we could do differently, how we could support different nurses. So not just having one deputy manager, having one of our nurses who specialised in wound care, for example. Another nurse might specialise in continence care, and they're recognised for what they excel at. I think that's really important.
Tell me a little bit about the finances, the profit and loss, and the balance sheets, and getting to grips with profit and gross profit, and making sure everything balances up. And how did you get on with that? Was that a learning process for you? Did you find you were good at that? Or tell me, because it's obviously not in the nurses training but obviously you must have learned that somehow. Tell me about that.
Absolutely. I think some people may call me a bit of a geek with my spreadsheets, so I quite enjoy that part of it. I was actually a manager in the NHS, so I was a general manager within the NHS. Okay. So I gained a lot of my business skills from there. But it was a huge learning curve, not just from a financial point of view. It's everything. So in the NHS, you have a finance department behind you. You have an HR department, health and safety, and literally in as a small independent, you don't have all those big resources behind you. So it's a huge learning curve, but it had very good accountants, people that you could go to, people that you can ask, peers that you can talk to. So it's all about learning. Well, I think life is about learning, and it's one long journey, isn't it?
Yeah, no, sure, of course it is. We're forever learning. And tell me also then about why you decided to sell and the process. Why did you decide to sell in the end?
Sure. So it was quite sad actually. We had a malicious safeguarding, which the CQC local authority and the police were very supportive of us, but it was deemed malicious. But after that, I started to have panic attacks and suffer from anxiety. And I'm a true believer in saying it's okay not to be okay. And sadly, after a few years, the anxiety and panic attacks got so bad, I made the most difficult decision to sell Valerie Manor. I thought I'd be there for the rest of my life, but sadly it wasn't to be. So I sold Valerie Manor, and it was the right decision for me. But I just feel really privileged now that I'm working in social care for such an amazing organisation and helping so many different people now. So
yeah, no, sure. And thank you for sharing that. And tell me a little bit about once you decided it was time to exit and to sell, how you went about finding a buyer, deciding on the value of you as a care home, nursing home. How did you go about that?
I obviously had to use specialists to value
Mm.
the home. And for me, it was about being happy that if I drive past the home, because I live locally still, I just live up the
Okay.
road from the
Nice.
home. I
So you
wanted
check up on it every so often.
yeah, I wanted to be able to drive past and be
Yeah.
happy with the decision that I made
Yeah.
and the people that I sold it to. So
Mm.
that was my aim. That was really important for me.
I see. Great, great. And so, well, how's the home going now?
Yeah, it's doing really well. I
Mm.
see lots of posts on social media, and the residents look happy and the
Mm.
team look happy. So yeah, it looks like it's doing really well. So I'm really pleased.
That's great. That's great. And back to the kind of theme of this creating a culture. I think probably a waiting list now for nurses and carers is a kind of a bit dream for many care providers right now.
Absolutely.
But okay, that's in terms of what you've learned and what you would like to convey of on being most attractive and most sticky, let's say, in retention of whether it be nurses or care workers. What lessons have you got to pass on here?
What lessons do I have? I think look after your team. They're everything to you. So if you've got a happy team, you've got happy
Mm.
residents and happy relatives. So you really need to invest in your team.
Mm. And if there was like one or two like key takeaways you would give on how to foster this happiness, does there anything particular come to mind?
I think knowing your team, I think it's difficult to generalize, but I think knowing your team, you can adapt as to how to look after them as to what their needs are.
That's great, fabulous, great. So Zoe, lots of info and tips and advice for our listeners. So thank you. Is there anything that you've not covered that you just would like to add?
Oh, I think we've covered quite a lot. Just like to encourage people to be part of the Outstanding Society, being a free membership. So do come and join us and celebrate what you do. Celebrate working in the social care sector.
And if people want to get in touch, how can they best do that, Zoe?
If they visit the website
Right,
at the Outstanding Society, all the information will be on there.
that's perfect. Zoe, thank you so much for being on the Care CEO Success Stories podcast.
Thank you for having me on. Thank you, Adam.